There will be a meeting of the Planning and Permitting Committee, June 25, 2024. This meeting will take place at 6 p.m. in the City Council Chamber, second floor, Medford City Hall, 85 George B. Hassett Drive, Medford, MA, and via Zoom. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan. Present. Vice President Collins.
Present.
Councilor Lozaro.
Oh, she's not on this committee.
Sorry. Councilor Lemming.
Present.
Councilor Scott.
Sorry, we're gonna get that audio turned down, I think. Thanks, Shane. So I've never had to say before, 4 present, 1 absent, the meeting is called to order. Action and discussion items, 24033, offered by President Bears and Vice President Collins, zoning ordinance updates with the Innes Associates team. Thank you so much for being here again. I know the memo says number 5. This feels like definitely more than 6 or 7 meetings we've had on this topic. We're going to be meeting many more times this year. Thank you as always for being with us. At our last committee meeting with our zoning consultant on June 12th, we talked about the status of the mapping analysis. We talked about the status of the work plan, organizing the various goals and topics from our climate action and adaptation plan and our comprehensive plan, turning those into a work plan that's full of council and city staff and community initiatives into topics that can be broken down then into actual language changes to apply to our code of zoning ordinances to bring Medford zoning more in line with what the community has been articulating that it really wants over the past few years. So the agenda for today is to review that more comprehensive work plan of all of those goals and topics into something that the council can take action on in coming months with a focus on what we'll work on over the next couple months, and view the status of the mapping analysis that we got a little preview of on the 12th. Are there any preliminary comments from my fellow councilors before we turn it over to Innes Associates? Seeing none, take it away.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, councilors. For the record, my name is Emily Innes of Innes Associates. I'm joined by 2 of my colleagues that you've met before, Paula and Jimmy. We're going to take you through 2 separate topics today. I'm going to give an overview and I'm going to turn it over to each of my colleagues individually. The first, as you said, is the work plan, and the second is our progress on the mapping updates. For the meeting itself, I'd love to come away with 2 sort of next steps. The first is, you will see in a moment when I hold it up and when Paula starts to go through it, we have a very long work plan with a lot of moving pieces. We feel that the time has come to start applying them to a geography. We'd like to start off with the Mystic Ave area and the Salem corridor area as well. We think a lot of the pieces that we've been talking about will start to fall in place as we use 2 geographies really to start thinking about those in the context of what is the actual physical environment that's affecting some of these zoning changes. So that's item number 1. Item number 2 is we're going to show online and pass around some printed maps, kind of honestly as a teaser for you. City staff hasn't had a chance to see the maps yet, so we would like them to see it. But also these are only on 11 by 17s. We would love to schedule a working session with councilors, with yourselves, to put them on a larger scale, be able to spread them out on tables and really work through some of the information that they're presenting to us. So with that, I'm just going to show you visually what Paula's going to go through. This is our work plan. We have 3 sheets of it. This is the first sheet. You're going to see, Paula's going to dive into the details, but you're going to see the topics down to the left-hand side, I think for you, right-hand side for me, and then the timeline. We have plotted out the city council, the committee meetings that we're having now, and we have identified 4 key points to get public input as well. So we will be talking about, beyond just the meetings that we're having here. So we'll be talking about which dates those are and what we present in more detail as we go. But this is the first of, I'll send over to you. 3 separate sheets that are breaking the topics that we've been discussing for the last 2 months, maybe 3 months, down into grouped in by where we're showing them. And also, as you can see, some of the topics overlap each other. And that's why we feel that we need to start with some physical geography, is to see how exactly the topics overlap, and do they have implications for specific areas or for the city as a whole. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paula to go through the details of the plan.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction. Paula, looking forward to seeing these a bit more in depth, and I mentioned this to Emily before the meeting. We are working under a bit of a time crunch today because of the regular meeting a bit after 7 p.m. So if we could try to keep this section of the meeting to 20 or 30 minutes, that would be ideal, so we can keep things moving. Thank you so much.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Paula. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, I need to, I'm disabled, so if I can make.
Just 1 second.
Sure. I would like to go through 2 things. One is that I want to show you the more updated table that we did. Last time I presented one a bit more simplified, and so how we decided to update that table. Yeah, I can share now. So let's see. And here we are. So this is the new, I'm going to take this out. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, perfect. So this is the new table. We showed last time one a bit more simplified. What we did is to establish the organization, or the structure right now is by goals, city objectives, and then we go from there into the strategies. So it looks a lot as your comprehensive plan, this kind of a structure. And we thought that it's better to organize it by goals and by later on objectives, so that is easier when we go through strategies that we are already looking at a big set of strategies that are aligned into certain objectives and their goal. What we did is also establish the topics, where does it come from, the code and the description of the strategy, and then the zoning also by section and subsection. So these strategies, what are the sections and subsections that are affecting, so that it's easier later on to look at each of these chapters more in depth, and to review all the inconsistencies within those sections of the zoning. We have phase, importancy, the urgency. So if it's high urgency, we start with that immediately, and then geographical implications. So if it's any specific area, or if it's citywide, and then the status. So if it's in progress, if it's completed. And in here, we can see all the strategies from the comp plan, all the strategies that came from the city council, from the building department, from the planning department, and from the CAP. So we have a lot, as Emily said, there are a lot of them, and we use this to start our work plan. So what do you see in those big sheets that Emily showed are all these strategies. So all that ones that are on the list are in here on the work plan. That will help us to never overlook any of this, so that we can always track them. That's why it's so in detail. We have on the left side all the strategies, and then on the right side we have all the timeline. As Emily said, we have here, it's in a brownish color, the days where we have planning meetings as the one of today. We have proposed at the moment 4 times, and these black lines, 4 times for public engagement, so that we can get feedback and then we can implement it in the zoning as well. We have 4 of those distributed. At the moment is a specific time. We will look at it later as we go. And then at the last part of the table are these more brownish color in the background. That is 1.5 months. We want to at least 2 months, 1.5 months to leave without any strategy so that we can implement and starting to finalize or the document and to save any inconsistencies that we had, things that needed to change from the beginning, that we have some time in order to do that. How are we going to look at this? Maybe I can share in the PDF. So here's all complete. We start, as Emily said, with a geographical area that has high importance at the moment and high urgency, and that is Salem Corridor and Mystic Avenue. So we start with this part of mixed uses, and as we look into that, we will be looking as well as other topics that are related. And so, for example, transit-oriented mixed-use developments will be also looked at this time because we think there is a lot of relationship. When these two, we will be looking at mixed use. And so we will, we'll be looking at housing, dimensions, and diversity of buildings. So we will look and go to the affordable housing for all. We also wanted to give some time for the ADU law that is being built at the moment at a state level, that to take some time. So when we go in depth into it, nothing changes. And so that is all in this part, in this area. There are some there are some more process-like, and that is in this area with definitions. That is a bit more fragmented. That's why you see it in this way. And then we leave climate resiliency. It's more spread out, but it will start, let's say, from the second third of the time, of the timeline. And little by little, we will adjust that. Mainly what we wanted is to establish some kind of efficient base for density, business, economic development, mixed use. And after that, to start introducing the climate resiliency into it. And then at the end, we have this legal process that we'll be looking at through the entire time, through the entire process. So that's why it's always, is this purple line that it's always with us, because we will review in all these sections. Is there any question to this or any? I cannot go into every little detail. This we will pass it on to you. And so if you have any specific questions, you can totally ask us and send any comment. We will look into them and adapt it. But this is more the generic from what we felt last time and the topics that had high importance and urgency, and how this could fit. Obviously, this will move, this will shift as we go more in depth, but at least to have a more generic framework.
Thank you so much, Paola. I'll go first to President Bears and then to Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Paola, for presenting this. I had one question, which is just the timeline side of the document. Have we seen that yet? It wasn't in the packet. I just wanted to, okay. Oh, yeah, it's
I will leave this printed copy. Just know that it's a draft. We're continuing to refine it.
Okay.
But I have it here and I'll leave it with Alicia and Danielle.
Thank you. Very tiny. I think the only comment I really have at this point, I'm going to need to review it and digest it.
Sure.
Is that I hope that it's helping me to see the scope and scale of the ambition of the project that we have been working on and are undertaking. And I hope to anyone watching or present that they can also see just how much work we are doing on this and how ambitious this project is. I think it's really exciting and big for Medford to be taking this on, and the culmination of at least 10 years of this council before I was here, and as well as the planning office doing really amazing work. So beyond that, there's so many details that I'm going to leave my comments very general. Thank you.
Councilor Scarpelli?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you so much. I'm really excited about the direction we're going into, because we hear a lot of, why can't Medford move forward, and going through the recodification. I think that the zoning and understanding the changes we haven't had in so long. And I think what we're seeing, especially in the last couple of weeks with one of the zoning issues, one of the placements of a very volatile issue. We talk about what we've seen is we've seen neighborhoods now get more involved. And I'm so happy that one of the biggest things we talked about, setting up those teams that are going to go right into the neighborhoods, that are really going to talk to those neighbors and get their input to see what we're looking for as a community, what they want in their front door, in their backyard. So my only thing is, as we get started, I know that, is how we're going to get the word out to, when that time comes. I think it's not for now, but I just wanted to share how excited I am that we're moving through this. And I know it's a lot of work with a lot of good people, and I'm really excited about it. But as we move forward, I think that the piece that we're seeing now is that community really getting involved. I was part of the, I was working in Somerville at the time when Somerville did their rezoning. And the mayor at the time really had every department deeply involved. So when we went from, square to square and neighborhood to neighborhood, we had everybody represented, every department there. So when the community members had an input, we were taking our fluorescent orange dots and putting it to where they thought was relevant. And that really helped us put together and zone their neighborhoods and be part of that. So I'm really excited about that. I just want to thank you for all your hard work. And I'm going to need bigger glasses for those bigger boards. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. I'll echo that last comment specifically. I really love a Gantt chart, and that's certainly the most prodigious one I've seen so far. So I really appreciate the granular level of detail, because as President Baird said, I think that this data visualization, it puts into sharp relief how many issues and topics and goals we're trying to work on really in the span of exactly one fiscal year now. So knowing exactly where we are in that process will be critical to accomplishing as much of this as possible. Just some quick reactions from me. At this time, I'm really heartened to hear of the priority list that we've drafted. And of course, all of this is going to shift and evolve as projects tend to do over the next year. But it's been clear to me from our previous conversations in this committee and hearing feedback from city staff and of course from the community that, that Mystic Ave corridor is one of the areas of the city that I hear the most about from just regular average people when it comes to why is this the way that it is and what are we going to do to make it what we really want there. Same for Salem corridor. So I think it's really right that we're thinking about how to approach that geography first. And in reviewing that kind of off the cuff list of priorities from counselors at our previous committee meeting on the 12th, I know we all agreed that each one of these topics is urgent and critical, but that doing what we can around affordable housing, really implementing what we've already resolved to do around affordable housing, absolutely has to come first. So I am excited to address those starting in this summer. Just to interrupt myself very quickly, Councilor Callahan on Zoom requests if we could focus the Zoom on the left portion of the chart again before we take that down. And just lastly, I'm really glad that Councilor Scarpelli brought up the note about public participation. And I know with these public meetings, we're always thinking about how to make sure that there are more people in the room and more people know about them, especially when it comes to things affecting people in their own neighborhoods. I also think it could be meaningful since so many of these zoning goals came out of the community input process informing the comprehensive plan and the climate action and adaptation plan, and that's where these goals come from. I think it could be meaningful if it's possible to dig up any of those old like public participation worksheets from those months of sessions, just to kind of illustrate, here's where some of these goals came from, here's what residents have already, in a sense, voted for, like here's the why behind some of these proposals, and then we can add in additional testimony on top of that.
So to that point, Madam Chair, so first of all, thank you, councilors, for your feedback. Really helpful to us as we work with you to tackle all these projects. I can also reach out, as you know, I was one of the team that agency put together to do the comprehensive plan. I can reach out to agency and see if they're willing to share. I think I've got some of those reports, but I can see what else I have in terms of the actual data that we received. It's always nice to be able to go back and show people, demonstrate to people that you really heard what they said. So I think that'd be a great thing to do. If there's no further questions on this, with your permission, I think we'd like to, and just keeping an eye on the time, I think we'd like to share the maps with you as well.
That'd be great, please go ahead.
Excellent. So Paula, if you don't mind stopping sharing on your side, thank you. Perfect. And I'm going to turn this over to Jimmy to show the maps. And as he does that, can I hand this over the barrier? Yeah.
Great.
We will want these back.
Hello, everyone.
No, it's one to share around.
Oh, one.
And we'll want them back because they're drafts. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. I was thinking that there was multiple.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Jimmy. Again, I'm the spatial analyst over at Innis Associates, and I'm on the Zoom if you would like to just allow me to share my screen.
Else? 1 second, Jimmy.
No worries. Take your time. There we go. So as Emily was stating out, we're going to start to take a look at the maps. And this one that we're going to start with is the transit map. So let me just hide the top for you. And go back. Okay, so the first map I have here is we started to look outside of Medford looking in, so that's why we kind of have a scaled out version of Medford. We kind of wanted to see everything surrounding Medford and its relationship with the neighboring towns. So the first map I have for you is the transit map. As you can see, we have some symbology on the left-hand side, but it's showing the transit networks throughout the city and the connecting towns. We have blue bike stations, planned blue bike stations, as well as bike trails, as well as Medford's bike lanes, as well as MBTA bus routes, transit stations, transit lines, and radii signaling a quarter mile from a transit station or a half mile from a transit station. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer, but this is just a scaled out version of the transit. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yes, I have 20 maps, I'm sorry. So the next map, when it loads, sorry about that. Sorry about that, everyone. I'm just waiting for Adobe to catch up with me.
You should notice that what the public and the counselors can see is that your title is hidden and the bottom of the map is hidden.
Okay.
If that go away, that's on this one.
Okay. So this next map I'll go over is the hydrography map. It's showing the hydrological features of Medford. We wanted to point out some important features as well, including the Amelia Earhart Dam, which is in the bottom right-hand corner of the Mystic River, and the FEMA National Flood Hazard Layers. We thought this would be important to show just exactly where Medford may be impacted regarding flooding and its hydrological features. And I'll move on to the next map. The next map I have for you guys is the recreation map. And this is just showing all the public open space, hiking and walking trails. I included bike trails on there as well because it's part of the recreation. And I have included bus stops, which are 100 feet in front of parks. So I didn't include all bus stops, just ones that were directly accessible and outside of an open space park. The next map I have is the Mass Historic Commission inventory, and these are all the inventoried historical properties that Mass Historic Commission categorizes. As you can see on the legend on the left-hand side, they're defined as different features, but some are inventoried, some are local historic districts. We have National Register of Historic Places, National Register of Historic Places and Local Historic District, as well as preservation restrictions. The next map, we're getting more granular on the data and just showing you what Medford is looking like in 2024. So here is mapped the median age, where as you can see the lower age is yellow and the higher age is a darker purple. The next map is the median income. Again, this is for 2022, and the lower end is around 60,000 for the median income across Medford, and the higher end is the darker green. The next map is the 2020 environmental justice populations. These are populations defined by Massachusetts State. If you have questions on how they define them, you can check out their website. But this is just showing the makeup in Medford itself. The next map is a race and ethnicity map of Medford. As you can see on the left-hand side of the legend, it shows you a breakdown of the total Medford population by race. And inside Medford, there are pie graphs visualizing each particular census tract. The next maps, they get a little more detailed and data oriented regarding Medford. So these were fun to make and visualize. So we have building value. This is pulled directly from the assessor's data table. And these are just mapped as building value by square foot of the parcel. The next map, we have a land value, and it's the same scenario as a building value. We're mapping it land value by square foot of each parcel. And the last map in this series for value is total value. Again, this is in the assessor's data table, but this is building plus land value divided by square foot. The next map, we have residential clusters. So here visualized is only the residential uses and residential parcels throughout Medford. So as you can see, there's quite a varying different amount of different uses for residences, but here we only visualize residential use. The next map, I have the age of residential housing stock in Medford. And this is a pretty cool map to visualize. You can see there's very little housing built from 1990 to currently. And it looks like a lot of the housing stock was built from 1900 to 1929. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, this is the average age. The next map is a analysis of the building frontage. So the building frontage, we define it as the lot line that is shared with the principal street that the lot is assessed as. So in the assessor's table, each parcel has a street name, and that is the assessed street that we go by to determine the frontage. So the lot line that shares that assessed street, that's the measure of the frontage. So it's only one side of the lot. It's not two sides. If it's a corner lot, it's only one. So here, as you can see, we broke it down into these buckets, similar to the table of dimensions, just to visualize what the frontage looks like throughout the city. The next one is the front building setback. So this is the distance that the building is closest to the front lot line. And as you can see, we broke it down into buckets again, just to visualize. You could see in the Wellington area, there's a higher setback because there's more commercial businesses down there. The next map is a building height map. And this is data that's pulled from the assessor's table. This just visualizes building height in stories throughout Medford. The next map is a lot size map. And again, this just visualizes lot size, this time in square feet. As you can see, there are a lot of parcels under 5,000 feet and many between 5,000 and 10K. The next map I have is the dimensions building coverage map. This building coverage is measured by the area of the building footprint within each lot. So it's the percentage that the building covers in each parcel. And as you can see here, as it gets darker, there's more coverage. And the last one I have is impervious coverage. So this is defined as all impervious area within a lot. So versus building coverage, this includes driveways, gravel and things like that. So this is all impervious surfaces as a percentage of the entire lot. And that's the last map I have for you guys. So thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Sorry, we're just negotiating the mic here. So I wanted to let you know that these base maps provide the data that we're going to need as we look at each geographic district. So the thresholds that we have chosen are based for that last series are based primarily on your table of dimensional standards. We found some interesting issues with that table that we're going to look forward to talking with you about as we move forward. But what this allows us to do is as we go into each specific geographical area, we can take this data and figure out which ones are non-conforming coming based on the zoning for that area. So one of the many reasons we want to start working with the geography is so that we can take that next step of analysis. But this at least gets us to an understanding of what's happening where citywide and allows us to see the different patterns.
Thank you. Good evening. So one thing I did want to sort of mention that I think Jimmy mentioned and Emily mentioned sort of briefly is this idea that these maps have a lot of data and we'd love to be able to sit around them and draw on them and just talk about them and sort of like, what do you see here and what does this make you think? And that would really lend itself to a working group kind of format where we sit in one of the conference rooms with the big table and spread out maps and we all stand around and walk around and draw on them. And so we just wanted to be clear that we thought that that would be a really great exercise to have maybe in July or if not August, but that maybe that would be in place of one of the evening meetings on Zoom, that it could be a publicly advertised meeting, but that it might be in a very different format than these meetings.
Thank you, Director Hunt. Before I recognize President Bears, I'll note, I think that that's a great idea. There's a ton to digest from these maps. Thank you so much for that overview, Jimmy and Emily. Some of these are really quite amazing to see this data laid out visually. And I would love to see that. I think maybe we can look at a date that would work for this committee in addition to our already scheduled July meeting for this group so that we can continue to move ahead on proposed discussing proposals either from the perhaps I don't think that we really want to push back our first meeting about the corridor level zoning, but I think that this would be fantastic to wrap our head around the kind of global approach. It's been a long time since we had a meeting where we all just stand around a table together. So I think that'll be very useful. President Bears.
Thank you. I just had a couple questions on the zoning with the neighborhood, the neighboring cities and towns. Would it be possible for when we get the final versions of those to have one that is just the Medford and then one with both? And could we add Everett in if possible? And I'm guessing that we kind of tried to take the zones from the neighboring communities and comp them to ours. Is that what the color?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sorry for glossing over that. I didn't mention that. So the zoning colored around Malden, Winchester, Arlington, and Somerville, they are colored to your zoning, but what they allow. So for example, down here in Somerville, where it meets this part of Medford, they allow the type of uses that you allow in your apartment 2 district. And same for Winchester up here, they only allow single family. So it does match your zoning, but definitely we can get you a map with just your zoning as well as Everett. So I will reach out to them again for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we did try. I did try 2 times to reach out to Everett. I didn't get anything back, but if you know anyone in Everett that I could get that from, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the efforts. I just think, when I talk about, no, I don't know, maybe it might be worth Melrose too, but it's just interesting to see how our zoning is like almost like a pizza pie of the surrounding communities. It's an interesting analysis to look at, but I think the Everett would show why Wellington is the way Wellington is a little bit too.
Yeah, definitely, of course.
Thank you, President Bears and Jimmy. I see Attorney Silverstein's hand raised on Zoom. Please go ahead and state your name. For the record.
Thank you, Councilor Jonathan Silverstein. I am the legal consultant working with the Innis team. I am working with both Everett and Melrose on their zoning recodifications, so I would be happy to coordinate with Jimmy to get the information he needs, with the caveat that Everett zoning in particular might be changing pretty substantially in the next year.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Great. Thank you very much, Attorney Silverstein. So this has been, I think, a helpful overview of the main guide and the main set of tools that we're using over the summer and beyond to set some of these goals and topic areas in motion, using the work plan to keep ourselves apace on the many goals called from years of community outreach into the comp plan and the climate plan, and discussing ways to make those manifest in changes to our zoning code, whether that be on the basis of topic, addressing specific corridors, specific districts, or global approaches. And then to be guided by this new suite of maps, which give us many overlapping pieces of insight into what we're talking about when we're talking about different areas of Medford. And this plan for our next steps in terms of next month sound good to me. As one counselor, we already have a meeting on the books with this committee and the zoning consultant, and it sounds like there's consensus around using that to begin our conversation around potential proposals for the Salem Street corridor and the Mystic Ave corridor, two priority areas for the community and the council. And I think it'd be really advantageous to, I don't know the July date off the top of my head, but if it's possible to even to fit in that map meeting before that, so we can have that in our heads as we go forward to think about all the other goals and topics with those layers in mind. I think that would set us off on the right foot. Any other, Councilor Lemming?
Just a small question. When do you think these maps are going to be available online in PDF format?
Thank you, Councilor. We do want staff to have a look at them as well. We sort of worked right up to the last minute to make sure they were ready. So that's why I don't want to give them out permanently today. I would say after staff's had a chance to review them, as soon as that's done, so maybe mid-July, because then we'll need to make any changes that come out of that, then we'd be happy to share them with you. And make them available online as well.
Thank you. And likewise, I know that the work plan is too physically large to put in the council packets this week, but if that could be distributed to members of this committee as well, that would be very helpful.
Sure, I will send it.
Great. Thank you, Paula. Well, at our previous meeting, we were reviewing the work plan just in draft before it was reformatted. I know councilors had a chance to review everything that was included within it. To make sure that, you know, all key priorities and suggestions from individual counselors and residents via counselors had been included. I took another pass today at the work plan that we received on Friday, and I know that all of my pet projects were in there for myself. So that was, I know that I'm sure that additional projects and topics will get added as we work through this. And certainly it doesn't need to be any longer than it already is. So I think that we are starting to get to a place where we can be picking up that pipeline that we kind of test drove with site plan review and definitions and municipal exemptions in May, where we can be working on this kind of two-track approach of reviewing proposals to corridors and global strategies, figuring out a cadence to be reviewing proposed language to get at those topics and goals from Innis Associates that are in line with the goals and priorities that we agree on, discussing them, voting them out of committee, and making sure that we are, you know, as best we can, going in order of priority and also going in order of actionability, what we're ready to move on, and what we know that it's urgent to move on so that we can make sure our zoning reflects what we want for our community. I think that takes us to the end of our formal agenda for tonight, because I know we wanted to mostly get a preview of these tools and guidelines we'll be working with for the rest of the summer and the year. Are there any last questions from counselors on mapping analysis, the work plan, or on what to expect from our next steps in July? Seeing none? Is there any comment from city staff or any member of the public who would wish to speak? If you'd like to speak and come up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. That's okay, just name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Paulette Vardabedian, 27 Central Avenue, and this is my first time at a council meeting.
Welcome.
And I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Oh, I'm Vice President Collins.
Collins. If you could speak a little slower, because I can't, you speak so fast and sometimes you swallow your words. I can't really understand a lot of what you're saying. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other further comment from members of the public, city staff, councilors? Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for all your work that's gotten us to this point. Looking forward to July, and we'll work together to schedule that working meeting around the maps as well.
Perfect. Thank you all for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Motion to keep the paper in committee and adjourn.
Second.
Motion to keep the paper in committee and adjourn from President Bear, seconded by Councilor Lemming. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, please call the roll. To. Just the committee members.
Council Callahan?
Oh, she's not.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Vice President Collins? Vice President Collins?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Annie, your mic's off.
Okay. Councilor Callahan?
Yes.
Yes. Vice President Collins?
Yes.
Councilor Lemming?
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli? Yes. President Bears? Yeah. And he's present, so I'm gonna switch that out. I'll be back then. Okay. Sorry.
All right, thank you all.
I'm all set.